cranking it up.
Are we?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. It's the Jimmy Doane Show. It's 4 o'clock. Sundays and Wednesdays, we do this live twice a week right here on Facebook. I'll also post a timestamp copy up on YouTube and Twitter. If you search for Jimmy Doane, D-O-A-N-E, you gotta put the Jimmy in there, and you'll find us. Today is the 26th of April, and we are still surviving the apocalypse here.
Yes.
What is happening?
Lots of things. Lots bigger. It's interesting. For a no news day, there's lots of things that happen and some of the things have not been reported in the mainstream media.
Okay, like what?
Okay, well, let me just run through something here that on the list. One of the things that happens here is on our Wednesday and Sunday show, when we're done, I go back and start to prepare for the next show. So Wednesday, diligently. So I had started, getting some headlines from Thursday. Well, it turns out that with the coronavirus and everything else, the stuff changes like minute by minute practically.
Yeah.
On what you have to do. So some of the stuff is old, like it's 3 days old, and then some of the
old news.
Yes, old news, right? But for those of you who don't keep up or who are sequestering in place, who have blinders on, I'm not even going to look out the window or anything. We'll have some news for you. One thing, a little legal thing that I want to get started is, you might have something to say about that. The Supreme Court has ruled that unwarranted traffic stops are reasonable.
What?
And it was 8-1.
Unwarranted? What does that mean?
Unwarranted, that is on a hunch.
Yeah, well...
The Supreme Court ruled Monday that a traffic stop without any actual driving infraction does not run afoul of the Constitution if the officer had a, quote, hunch the driver has a revoked license. So what they apparently had done is run his tag, and they said if that's the owner driving the car, then he's in a violation. So they stopped him to find out if the owner was driving the car. Right.
Well, so, okay, that doesn't change the standard, actually.
It doesn't.
No. The standard is articulable suspicion, which means if you can articulate a reason why you had your hunch. You can't just say, I had a hunch.
Okay.
You can't just say a bare hunch. What they say in that, they cross it. They say you had a hunch that his license was suspended. That his license was suspended is an articulation as to why you would stop somebody.
Okay.
And they can totally do that. That's been like that for a while. I'm surprised it got challenged and taken all the way up there.
Interestingly enough, it's 8-1. And Clarence Thomas wrote the opinion.
Okay.
And, said, yep, sure enough. And as you just said, and of course the dissenter was Sotomayor.
Okay, yeah,
Sure, I mean, that's, right. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Anyway, what he said was, as you just said, Clarence said that the Fourth Amendment cases have allowed police officers to conduct a brief traffic stop when he or she has a particularized and objective basis for suspecting the particular person stopped of criminal activity. So exactly.
Now, if the person, one interesting thing, let's say they run the license check, the tag, and it says suspended license, and it says John Doe, and the driver's a woman, can't stop them.
Really? Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
It's obviously not them.
Obviously not them.
I mean, unless they've identified in some way.
Yeah, right. Trans. Yeah. That's good to know, because that means that if I put on lipstick and a wig,
you're golden.
I'm golden. This is great. I mean, there's no problem. Now, the other thing that I pulled something else here and that is for those of you who
I'm listening.
Well, there's a bunch of you who are, of course, watching this show, but a bunch of you have decided not to, for obvious reasons, because guess what? Most of the major charge, not Netflix, but streaming places on your Roku or your Apple TV or whatever it is, have decided to allow a lot of their content that normally you have a paywall, have decided, at least for the time being, to not charge you. That means that now Apple TV Plus is one that only runs for another couple of days, but HBO and History Channel, PBS, Lionsgate, and Sling TV, Sony Pictures, and Tribeca, so among others, have said, at least for a while, we're lifting the paywall. And I guess that's to try and suck you in.
Yeah.
Now a lot of them almost all of them have had for a while anywhere from 10 to 30 day free free trial, and of course what they're counting on is that you forget.
Sure.
And then automatically they'll charge.
Well, you're just lazy.
Yeah, you're lazy, right? Well, that's what happened to me.
That's what everybody does. The actuaries figured that out a long time ago.
Yeah, that's for sure. We automatic. I do have some things. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting that if you're not watching us, then you're probably watching one of these things here, and there are some good videos on it. Speaking of which, let me just see here.
You promote that great courses thing all the time.
Great courses. Yeah, great
That's
courses.
Good. But that costs cash, like you said.
$10. It's nothing.
I tell you, I've done the master class thing with you see those experts come on or whatever,
right.
And those were really good. The one that I did
There's a lot of them that are really good. It's amazing. I mean, we've talked about before the Khan Academy, which is totally free.
Yeah,
been on for 10 years.
Yeah.
And everything. It has everything.
Right, but that's mostly for kids learning.
Well, no, except they go all the way up to differential equations and everything. Right. It's for everybody if you want to learn about something. Now, it may not be quite as structured as, I don't know, not Curiosity Stream, but some of the others that are a little more structured. It's interesting. One of the things that is interesting to me is that there's some regular old run-of-the-mill YouTube videos now that are really good. One of them I've been watching recently has to do with calculators and and how to use the old elderly the ones that you can graph on and everything like that, and they've got like a million functions and what they can. I just sat there, holy smokes, you got to be kidding me! They can do that. And so I thought it was. And these are they cost nothing. That's something else. Speaking, however, I'm going to move on here. I'm going to jump around just a minute.
All right.
Two things to consider. I did watch I think it was on YouTube. I don't think it was Netflix, but it was last night, 3:00 in the morning, and it was about an hour and 40 minutes, and it was these two guys who motorcycled through southern China on the North Korea border. It was fantastic. No, these guys were really good, and what they were showing was on the border, it is like southern China border. It's all free enterprise. It's all people are getting rich. The Chinese, apparently the North Korean border on China is porous, as our Canadian border is. And what's happened is that a lot of the Chinese are, for all intents and purposes, setting up shop in North Korea in the 10 or 15 miles, and they had videos. And what was in the stores were washing machines, refrigerators, all the stuff that cars, stuff that people would want. And it was like an American city.
Wow.
Just phenomenal. And of course, what this boils down to is the big news du jour is Kim Il-un, or whatever it is, apparently be dead.
Yeah.
And apparently, which I thought was interesting, he collapsed at some kind of a show. They rushed him to the hospital, and they put a stent in his. Now, I can speak from personal experience on this, having a stent right here from 2-3 weeks ago. And of course, what was interesting was my stent was ordered from Australia, took 3 weeks to get here, and then they put it in a 2 or 3 hour operation. Now what happened was, apparently Kim collapsed, they hauled him to a Newark hospital, and they put the stent in, opened him up and put this bamboo stent in.
They went ahead and put some Clorox in there.
Yeah, cool, something, whatever, we're going to put you out for a few minutes, whatever it is, and, sliced him open and put this, cut me a bamboo tree about this big around.
Right.
And so they put a stent in there. Apparently he died. Now, let me put it this way: the reports are conflicting that he's either on life support, he's really dead, he's some whatever it is, comatose,
sort of dead,
blah blah blah.
mostly dead.
The rumors floating around have to do with his sister.
Yeah.
His sister apparently is about in her mid-30s.
What's up, DJ? Go ahead.
Yeah, and she apparently is the real power.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is these guys that travel across the southern China border, North Korea border, said that it absolutely was still and had been for years a male-dominated society.
Okay.
And the idea that people are going to, if she assumes the power, that they're going to say, well, that's okay. You know, think about it. All of the when you look before at Kim Il Jong, whatever it is, and all the people in back of him, all the soldiers and all the other people like that, they're all
bunch
guys.
of girls, right?
No girls. so she's now going to be ordering them around.
Right.
Well, maybe not. And what these guys said was, it's still going to be, they don't know, they didn't know who it was going to be. It looks like it's going to be up in the air. And what these guys thought was, given how much China had encroached on North Korea already, and that there was lots of people who are really willing and able to make the huge instantaneous move, kind of like East Berlin did to West Berlin, and they're ready to move on tomorrow to a market system. And as soon as they walk in there and see a store full of refrigerators, and I mean, there were, you know, these were $1,000 and $1,500 in the United States washing machines. These people are buying washing. I'm thinking, wait a minute, and so on and on. And they had photos of all this stuff, and they sat down with a North Korean family, and they had food. It's all on the video, and unfortunately, I don't have the link for it. I should go find it and put it on the video sometime. No, but it was very informative. The point being that our very genius CIA people and so forth are thinking that the United States and South Korea are going to waltz in there maybe and have some say about what happens to North Korea. And what these guys are saying is, after having traveled all over China on their motorcycle or whatever, kind of like what Jim Rogers did years ago, went around the world on his and everything. They said, no, you don't understand. There's a billion people in China that are ready to come down and see what the story is on North Korea, and they're right there. And it's not like there's a no man's land or a Berlin Wall as there is separating North from South. It's open. It's like a Canadian border. You can walk across the place. And they said that it turns out that a lot of the trading, apparently, as they said, happens at night. And as soon as the sun goes down, the black market, whatever, these people, you know, they're like our people from
the dark
Mexico.
Market.
Yeah, I mean, really, they're coming across the Rio Grande, the North Korean version of the Rio Grande, and setting up shop, doing all their trading, everything. And apparently, there's some pretty rich North Koreans now who are taking advantage of this, and they showed that these people are doing pretty well. And so these guys seem to think that kind of market, which you would expect, once that kind of thing gets started, it takes off as long as there's not enough people around with guns.
Right.
This is all voluntary. I mean, and it's just fascinating. They all did say, of course, fascinating because of the history of it, that a lot of those southern Chinese people speak Korean, North Korean, which apparently is like their own dialect. It's I don't mean it's their own dialect, but apparently in the North Korean, they've said that the refugees that have come out of North Korea, they really can't understand them in South Korea. No problem with them.
Well, that's not terribly shocking to me, considering you've got South Korea right there, which is gangbusters right now.
Right.
And that's got to be annoying to be able to just see the city lights and see the prosperity to the extent that they're getting any information at all. I would imagine a lot of it is about South Korea and about how well they're doing. So that's got to be enticing and a sort of a stick in the side. And then you've got China, who we reported a few months back was really making a lot of inroads into capitalism. They had transferred a lot of their economy. I think we talked about various sectors and how privatized they were, and it was far more privatized than I had previously imagined China to be. And as you say, once those things start to take off, once the money is flowing, people start to realize that they can get rich doing work if they can just trade, then it's hard. That's a strong tide. Like you say, you got to have some kind of military presence to push that back.
Right.
Now, I don't know what, in terms of, I mean, when I look back over the history of the world, it's been a patriarchy forever, and yet we've had strong matriarchs emerge in patriarchal societies and do just fine.
Yeah.
And as long as they are, from my perspective, the way I think of it is, as long as they're authoritative, as long as they act like a guy, as long as they really take charge and start lopping off heads and stuff like that, they can get away with being the girl in charge. And if this girl is ruthless enough and connected enough, I could see her sliding right into his position, even with a culture against having female prominence in those kinds of roles. But I'm hopeful that she's going to look, as you say, you look at that border, you see the people getting rich, you look down south, you see people getting rich, and you think, oh, and by the way, your brother just got killed, and who knows how long he was for this world anyway, with the conflict that he's engendering with everybody. So I would think she's got a good opportunity. Look, if I were the Korean leader, and if you were to sort of appear in their body without any other connections or anything, the first thought would be, well, shoot, let's just ask the Americans for $1 trillion and tell them we'll behave if they give it to us.
They're giving it to everybody else.
Well, exactly.
What's a trill?
Well, exactly. What's a trill? So I would think that would be one of her.
That's one thing, is that sort of makes sense. That's logical and reasonable. One of the things you have to understand is her upbringing is she's the daughter of the former dictator, horrible dictator person. She's the brother. She has been at his side for these many years.
Well, that was my next question: is has she been marginalized and kept in a box?
No.
Hanging?
She is always there.
Right.
Whenever they have a picture of him, she's there.
Really?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, she is right there in the picture. She's apparently you don't get between her and a camera. She's right there, and the Chucky Schumer thing.
Right.
So no, the thinking is that she is, totally indoctrinated and understands the power of according to
what to do next.
What to do next. That's right. She's.
You still can't. I mean, like you said, any objective analysis of the potential prosperity that's available to her, I would imagine. You can be a dictator of this crappy, poor country that is infighting and all this kind of stuff and unknowns, and you have to watch your back all the time, or you can.
But that is the history of dictators.
Right.
I mean, that's what Leopold did in the Congo. That's what when you look at the dictators. Castro lived like a king.
I agree with you. I think it's more likely that she's going to go that route.
I mean, if you are sitting there and have thousands of people kowtowing to you, bowing to you, time and time again, and you're able to,
stop! No kowtowing. Quit bringing the gold.
The caviar, the whole deal. I mean, at what point do you just say, "I'm going to give this up"? For the
That's right.
No.
We're going to be nice today.
No.
Well, I don't know. It would seem like. I guess it depends on her steel, her personal metal. How.
Now, are you going to try and read her mind or something like this?
No. I'm going to wait and see.
Well, I'm looking at the two sides on this. One of these two cowboys that that they look like they were in their late 20s, mid 30s or something. They were motorcycle across southern China. And they were talking, they sat down, and I don't know if they spoke any of the lingo or what, but apparently they must have gotten around pretty much okay. And they had a video, and lots of video, but it was interesting to me that their take on it was that China, from their travel around China, was the Chinese had a vested interest in taking over, because why? There are 18 million people that are a new market.
Yeah. Well, and it's a bunch of unexploited resources.
Absolutely.
I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if China had moved into North Korea at any time in the last few decades.
That's what I'm saying. What these guys are saying is that unbeknownst to anybody else, they have.
Right.
I mean, the people there on the board, not idiots.
Right.
They're saying, wait a minute, those guys right over there, they need some of our stuff, and they get in, and the next thing you know, apparently it's spread down. But again, when you see the videos, it's pretty amazing, and you think, wait a minute, that can't be North Korea. Because you see videos of Pyongyang, which is 100 miles, 200 miles far, and there's like nobody there.
Yeah.
There's, the only cars are the.
Well, the telling image is the one of Korea at night.
Yes.
Where you see
right,
South Korea
exactly.
all lit up, and North Korea is like one street light.
Apparently, and I don't know for sure, but yeah, and that's right. That may be why, of course, all
they do their trading at night.
Exactly.
It's perfect. Yeah,
that's it. We have a Chinese flashlight, and we go. That's right. No, I mean seriously. What are the guards going to do? They just can't do it. So anyway, I think the reason I bring this up, I have not seen this reported in any other press. This was just this video. First, right? We're first here. This is right. We're ahead of the curve. And this may be the way it works. Again, we have to wait to find out if he's really dead,
right?
Out of thing. And is she going to move in and really try and take it? Are they going to say no, yes, whatever?
Give it to Uncle so and so.
Well, again, that's one of the things. Is now what happens is his son, I think, has been. What happened was Un passed over his son.
Okay.
As far as the ascension was concerned, or whatever.
Okay.
So apparently his son is not qualified or something. I don't know. I don't know what the. Okay, look, I'm speaking.
You're not an expert on the transition of power in North Korea.
I know speak. I just think it's.
What the hell kind of program?
Yeah, what kind of program is this? You'd think I'd have done a little more research. I certainly would have had the link for the video, which was very informative. And again, what you do is you take a lot of this stuff you look at it, you absorb it, maybe yes, maybe no, but then you listen to what the CIA people say about South Korea and North Korea, and you're thinking, well, you got a real great track record. I mean, you had no clue when the Berlin Wall fell. I mean, no clue at all when Russia, when the Soviet Union dissolved. Nothing, no hint, no nothing. And wait, you guys are not that great. So anyway, that's the
Norks.
So North Korea's male-dominated Kim dynasty may be about to hand over the keys to the Hermit Kingdom to a woman. Kim Yo-young is her name, has the highest chance to inherit power. And one analyst said that he thinks that's 90%. So that'll be interesting. And then of
she's
course,
all over the news.
Yeah, and and what does she do with it? I mean, that's the other thing is what do you do with it? Can you get? You wonder if people are the further away you get from the power. If you're standing right next to her and she's got people with swords and everything standing over here, you're probably not going to disagree. But if you're 10 miles out, you might say, "Wait, what am I doing? I'm not sure about."
It's gonna be a transition period here for.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. All right, the next thing, moving along here.
Aren't you gonna mention the big news of the week?
Biden.
Well, no, I was going to start with the Trump the Trump fiasco at the press conference.
I looked at no, I'm not really. I looked a little bit at it, and there were people that, if you read the transcript and everything, and you look at it, you think, well, you can't do that. And then other people, as you say, cherry picked out one or two phrases and said. And we're saying that there was a cartoon, for instance, that showed Trump, a Trump believer, or whatever, bent over with the medicine bags,
Clorox,
Clorox and something else in his butt.
Yeah.
I mean that was the cartoon.
Right. Well, I thought it was interesting because obviously the media spent the whole weekend trying to convince everybody that Trump had said go out and ingest or inject some cleaning fluid or bleach or whatever. And any objective observer, that's not the inference you would draw. You would only draw that inference if you wanted to.
Right.
And of course they're saying that obviously what he actually said was take the bleach and just splash it in your eyes because that's where your corona is. No, he didn't say
Exactly. I'm having a Corona excising here. We're moving
That's
these
right.
out. That's right. I won't have. Oh, that's not the virus.
Yeah, exactly. No, look, it was just, I thought it was funny that they were trying to convince everybody that not only was that what he said, and that all the Republicans would go out and
Do
do
that.
shots of that, but also that all Republicans were ignoring the dangerous thing that he said. And just those two things don't make sense. And I mean, if you're a Republican, you're either ignoring it or you're taking it to heart, but you can't really do both.
Well, but as far as I would guess, if you're a Democrat, you would hope that they'd all take it to heart and go.
Well, exactly.
And go.
And you would think that if you're a Democrat, that you might expect some Republicans to do that, because as a Democrat, you usually have a lot more faith in your leader. Like if the leader says something, oh, that's what the leader said. But Republicans, on the other hand, are like, well, that's just this guy up in Washington or whatever. Like, we don't really pay that much attention to it. It's just, I thought it was funny that the people who really paid attention to what Trump said, that really want to make it's like it's all in their universe. You know,
Well,
the whole
it's
thing.
TBS.
Right. Well,
I mean, it's no question. It was just I saw.
You can see who
I saw bits
really
and pieces
doesn't
of it,
like
and I
it.
thought, this is a parody. This is I was wondering. It was Saturday,
yeah.
and so I'm thinking they're preparing for SNL.
Right.
This is obviously, this is really funny stuff. No,
All right. Well, what else you got?
I did not follow. I did not do.
I mean, it was a nothing burger story. At the end of the day, it was one of those things where, like the win bigly thing. Like, he didn't actually say win bigly. He said win big league.
Yeah.
So if you want to make a big thing about the bigly issue, you're just making stuff up. I mean, it's fine. You can do that and have a great time with it and enjoy it. But nobody else is believing it. I mean,
Well, that's right, and that was the same thing that even it still pops up occasionally on the hoax in Charlottesville.
yeah.
I mean, there are still people that are buying it, and you just boy, I tell you. Okay, there's two more things that I've got here that are very interesting. I think. Let me just make sure. Well, I hope you're going to have some stuff.
Yeah.
Amazon has been restricted from selling non-essential items in France. Now, the French have really doubled down on this. And what they've said is they can be fined 100,000 lira, or not lira, what are they, euros?
Yeah.
If they delivery the e-commerce giant can be fined 100,000 euros for any delivery that violates the stuff that's okay to send. Now, the stuff that you can do are, this is what's great, is only items that are directly related to medical supplies, hygiene products, and food items in the country during the coronavirus pandemic, whatever it is. So the point is that apparently they've got a list of stuff that's okay for Amazon to deliver. You call up, I'd like to have some swabs or something like that. Mm-hmm. But if you want almost anything else that's not on the list, 100,000 euro fine. And I don't know exactly.
For Amazon or for the order? Or
for Amazon.
Okay.
So, in other words, Amazon, what's happened is that they obviously are gun shy about delivering almost anything. Is this on the list or whatever?
This is amazing to me. This, to me, dovetails right into the story that we saw this week. A couple of them I've seen now, where prosecutors have gone after people who are reselling the masks and the guns.
Oh yeah.
And, for a mere $7, and here's a mask that was $1 or 50 cents or whatever it was. So now it's $7, and now they're prosecuting people for this. And I'm thinking, how much more of a dampening effect can you put on entrepreneurs if you're going to tell them, hey, we want you to get into this business because we need these things made and distributed, but don't try to make any actual money at it,
right.
Or at least don't make any significant amount. You can make a little bit, you can make enough to cover your time, maybe, but not, of course, the restructuring of your whole business and everything.
Well, to me, it's so easy. You set up your business as a non-profit.
Right, and then you just pay yourself a huge
whatever.
Right, exactly.
I mean,
Yeah, that's the Democrats love that.
The Rolls Royce is a part of. That's a business expense, for God's sakes.
Non-profit, I know.
That's a non-profit.
I don't know how non-profits got to be like these. Oh my God, it's a non-profit.
I know, but I've always said, I have said forever that non-profit should not be allowed at all.
No.
Zero. Zip.
Why?
That is the stupidest thing I ever, because that's anti-capitalist, it's anti-everything.
Yeah.
And to think that you're going to get a special tax break that according to the government even is somebody else is going to have to pick it up. They wouldn't want to cut their spending in the government. What they're going to say is, if you're not going to pay taxes, then these guys are.
Right.
People making a profit. And so all you have to do is declare that you're a nonprofit, and you look around, and as one of the things that's a big deal are some of the charities. Now, it's always a big deal when you see that the head of some of these things. Now, again, they fight back, but I don't know, the Red Cross, not the Salvation Army, several of them, the CEOs are making, $700,000, $900,000. Well, I don't know if you call that is it really that important? I mean, what, blah, blah, blah.
That whole thing has been distorted.
Of course it has.
It's been taken advantage of and abused, and basically now we have all kinds of non-profit organizations out there.
I'm telling you, that's what I would do. I would go out there and set up my little 11-year-old lemonade stand, non-profit.
Mm-hmm.
$1 a cup.
Did you see this week in California, Gavin Newsom has announced a new program to provide food delivery drivers from the state.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. They're getting into the Uber Eats business, basically.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that's great, of course, is when you can compete with, as an enterprise, a market enterprise, when you have to compete with free,
yeah,
it's tough. That's one of the problems with education, of course, is you're competing with free.
Yeah. I just thought it was funny. Somebody's comment on it was, well, they ought to call this one the Job Stopper 2000.
Yeah, right.
I mean, if there's a market for people delivering food, then there's a market for it. And so you let that be. But no, they're going to get in and make sure everybody has delivery of everything out there.
I thought it was fascinating because I remember
possibly go wrong?
Years ago, I went around with a friend of mine and we delivered we were Meals on Wheels.
Okay.
And we went and delivered, to people, old people that couldn't get out or whatever it was, but it was all private.
Uh-huh.
And I actually
see that's the problem, is that they're worried those aren't gonna be there, so they're gonna go ahead and
so make sure they're not going to be there. That's right. And the way you make sure is
yeah, exactly.
Is you cut them out. It's called my nose.
Yeah.
It's called crowding out. That's what they do. They crowd out the market system. They think they're doing a great job, and the market is willing and able. And a lot of times, if you just give the market a few days to adjust,
right,
it takes a little while, but it's
that's the
pretty
thing.
quick.
They see a deficiency and they say, "See, the market isn't filling it."
The market is right.
It's
a market failure.
Right,
and so we up here, our committee has decided to fix this failure.
Right,
and here's how we're going to do it.
Yeah, they don't seem to see that the same people who recognized that there was a market failure could just go into business.
Yeah.
I mean, they've identified a need. They're concerned about it, and so.
Well, but they have a gun. They can,
Right. Why go into business?
Why go into business when if you can rob people at the point of a gun, why would you bother to actually?
The robbing is happening right now, isn't it?
Yeah. All right, I got so anyway. That's they've decided to make an official list in France of items forbidden and not. Das ist forbidden. Okay, well, except. Eh bien, das ist forbidden. All right, one of the last items I have here has to do with the open for business people. Now the big deal is they are chastising, they're pillaring up north of us here in Georgia, and the governor of Georgia has been, roundly across the board, because he says we're getting ready to open for business. Now one of the things that's happened up there, and they talk about this, is that there are people now that are starving. I mean they're out of a job, they've gone to try and get some quote government help, not happening. They've run out of money, and so they're sitting there saying, I got kids to feed. I got children here. So if you think I'm not going to go out and earn some money, you're crazy. So they're starting up stuff one way or the other. Now the cops, they'd had this one where I guess maybe it was a hairstylist or somebody, and she'd kind of opened up in the basement of her house or something. Cops found out about it, went, can't do that. Blah blah blah. And
how dare you?
How dare you? Right, without a permit.
Right.
Which reminds me, if you want to have some fun, you should watch. You can go on YouTube and search for John Stossel, and he has a thing on permits. And in 1950, 1 out of 20 jobs needed a permit, and now it's way more than that. I don't know, 40 or 50 jobs.
I can't. It's impossible for me to imagine a job that doesn't have a license or a permit,
license or a permit, right?
Some sort of permission from the government.
So anyway, they've got to feed their children. Cash-strapped business reopens in Georgia, as 16 states now are saying, "Look, we've had enough of this." You talked about this last week or two. It says the worst outbreak in the state is still raging in Dougherty County in Georgia, where Albany is. And of course, what they've said is they've got 108 deaths up there, and what they've figured out is that about 1% of the county is infected, not died, but is infected. So I don't know what the number is. It's 0.01% that have actually died, but. Of course, any death is too many, I guess, is over. But the point is that 99% of the people are not infected, and I guess what they're worried about is what they call the domino effect. The virus ripped across the country after 2 widely attended funerals. One attendee, a 67-year-old man who was at both funerals, later tested positive, setting off what's called the domino effect, according to CNN. Those Georgians who are returning to work have apparently accepted that they're guinea pigs in a grand national experiment with incredibly high stakes. This is the way the news puts this stuff. After weeks of unemployment, often with uneven government help, some said they're happy to be earning paychecks, but worry about the ultimate cost of abandoning isolation too soon, according to the Washington Post. But they won't be the only ones. Tennessee's governor has said he's going to allow businesses to reopen after a shelter-in-place order expires this next week. The governor of South Carolina has already said some retail stores can be open this week, and people have been walking on. We talked about this before. You're apparently on the beaches in Jacksonville. You're allowed to walk on the beach, but
don't try to sit down.
Don't sit down. No. You get that blanket out, you're going down. That's it. No, don't sit down, and you got to walk. I mean, I don't know what happens if you stand up and talk to somebody if they're too close. I don't know, but no laying down, no sitting down, no desk, no beach chairs for you. People have been walking, and Iowa and Mississippi become the latest states to announce plans to reopen. What I thought was interesting about that is all of them were southern states, with the exception of Iowa.
I saw Alaska also was.
Well, that's Alaska, right?
That's a totally normal, average state.
I realize it's not a southern state. Yeah, normal, right? Average state, larger than Texas and 9 people.
Yeah. Well, as I said weeks ago, as soon as people start to get over the fear,
feed my kids.
Huh?
I have to feed my kids.
Right. Well, there's definitely, I don't know how, it's obviously getting to be a pinch at this point. I mean, we're in the middle of April. May, rents are coming due, bills, everything's coming due.
Exactly right.
And people are going to go back, and I think it'll be fine. Of course, there'll be a rush to compete, because if some states open up and others don't, well, those ones are going to start to garner some business.
Not only that, when you say states, how about people in town? In other words, what they've done, for instance, if you sell, I don't know, in some, in the dog business, if you sell dog flea powder or something, that's a medicine, but you happen to do grooming, you're allowed to be open. But if you just do grooming, no.
Right.
You can do.
Right. So, well, yeah.
A lot of complaints about that. I mean, when you say the states are going to compete, I think that the people across the street are going to compete.
Yes. Well, everybody is going to compete.
That's right. And once you see you're looking across the street and you see the line.
They got a line out the door.
Wait a minute.
Exactly.
That's it.
That's exactly what's going to happen. And so I think it's going to be a wave. And I'm hoping that the antibody test will come back and show that everybody already has it. It's not a big deal.
The other thing is that there seems to be a lot of, I don't know if it's misinformation, but nobody has said when they call about leveling out the curve, or from this curve to that curve as far as the infection is concerned, but nobody has said there are going to be fewer deaths or less infection. It's just that it's going to be spread out.
Right.
When you flatten the curve, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that there have now been, of course, all over Netflix and some of the other things. They've been a lot of and History Channel and everything. They're talking about the prior pandemics, so the Black Plague and the flu of 1819, whatever it is, and they're talking what
1918.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
No, I meant 1918 or 1919. I left that off.
Right. Okay.
So I said 1918.
Oh, I
or
see.
1919.
Right. Okay.
I just happened to left the 19 off.
I got you.
Comma 18.
I got you. Yeah.
Comma
Apostrophe.
Yes.
Grammatical in the end.
That's right. Exactly. So, but they're suddenly doing some research on this stuff and finding out what exactly happened in there. And a lot of it was I was looking at one of them had to do with the Black Plague and where it happened and how it decimated certain civilizations and towns where half the people died. There weren't even enough people to bury the other people, that kind of stuff. One of the things that I do remember was years ago there was a series called and what was the guy? He was a Brit, and he was talking about history. This is the stuff. It started in Roman times and brought it up to today, that kind of stuff. And one of the things was the history of printing. And what they said was, because of the Black Plague, suddenly there was a plethora. There was a huge amount of cotton clothing available, and they used it to make paper, and that's why paper became paper. That is to say, fiber paper, whatever you call it, the stuff that lawyers use today, for instance, became cheap. And so this was right after the inventing of this printing press. And so suddenly, when all this cloth became available and they found a way to, make it down and break it down and everything and make paper.
A bunch of plaguey cloth.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess if they put it into Clorox,
right,
or something,
right.
or lye,
right.
And but the point was that this guy, God, his name just flashed through my head. But it was a series. It reminds me a little bit of Carl Sagan's series, which was 20 years ago. But this guy, James Burke, was his name. James Burke had a series on how it came about or something. But the particular one that I remember was because of the Black Plague, the good news was all of a sudden the books became cheap because we had paper.
Right. Well, from my perspective, I think we're in a good position on the whole coronavirus thing, with one potential unknown exception on the horizon still, and that is once this thing rips across Africa and India, is it going to get to mutate significantly faster, and could it, we know it could mutate into something much more deadly. So, but that's all roll the dice at this point. So you wait and see, and I have faith in our apps and our medicine and that kind of stuff for people to what?
Yeah, way to go. Faith in that.
What? No, I
know.
In terms of the difference in technology between 1819 and today.
Well, of course, that's true. There's a lot of that, but one of the things that you do find is the stumbling blocks to a lot of this stuff. Or that there's a phenomenal amount of charlatanism that has popped up, which I thought was, because you look in the 1800s, for instance, late 1800s, when electric, right? Well, that's right. The patent medicine, the guy, and thing, and find out that it's half alcohol, blah blah blah. But all the stuff that was in there, a lot of it was poison. But I remember when in the late 1800s, when electricity became available, you go back and look at some of those magazines, and they show people hitched up, and they're doing this, and cures cancer, blah, 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 on and on and on. And a lot of that kind of stuff is now showing up here. And there are people that are saying this will cure it. And it's like the mercury baths for syphilis. And so you're starting to see a lot of that stuff. Because they'll try anything.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Steve McQueen when he decided to eat peach pits in Mexico or something. This was supposed to cure his cancer. So on and on, this kind of stuff. But this will all weed itself out.
Right.
Not worried about it.
Yeah.
And but so the only thing they're worried about is what I call the syndrome that had to do with what was the disease that caused people's arms to be short when they were born, the pill. thalidomide, right? That's what they're still talking about. Well, we're not going to have another thalidomide here. So, well, we stop everything. You don't get fired for saying no to something.
Right.
We need another 5 years of tests before you can release this.
Well,
virus.
fortunately, in this day and age, we literally have a whole bunch of different experiments running in the various countries.
No, that's true.
And so we can see the Swedish model, the South Korean model. JC pointed out last week they did really well with theirs down there, and Sweden is saying, "Give us another week, and we'll be done." And so we'll see. So
well, people are, and of course, the other thing is that, as they say that, when somebody gets hit by a car, they died from the virus.
Right,
yeah. Mark that down as a virus death. So that's,
well, I think they'll be sorting that stuff out because there's too many different people keeping track at this point.
that's true.
So it'll even itself out.
We still do have though the people that are reporting other people. We still have some of that stuff and the shaming. You're not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Well, I'm out here in the middle of the parking lot. What's the problem? So you're killing me.
So is that all you got?
Yes.
There? Okay. So I got a couple of things here.
Okay.
Oil, as we know, has been crashing. Now, here's my thought. My first thought on this whole oil crash was actually quite ominous because I thought Russia. Now, I don't know if you remember, but Russia, the state in Russia gets about 50% of its revenue from oil.
Really?
Yeah.
This is like Venezuela. Only they got like 100%.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the GDP of Russia is like 15% from oil, but 50%, fully 50% of state revenues come from that.
Okay.
So in that kind of collapse, that has got to cause some internal political strife over there. I don't care how well Putin is doing, that's got to raise some ire. And I got to, my thought is really, who is going to get the Ukraine's parking spots at the NATO headquarters? Because I got to be thinking, Ukraine has to be, that's got to be the prize. If Russia, if they really get desperate, you go in there and you bag Ukraine. And
well, that is down in that area where all the oil is.
Yeah.
That's the one where Hitler made a serious mistake going into Stalingrad instead of running down there into the Urals or wherever their oil is.
And I'm a little concerned about Russia in the whole oil collapse.
I'm not that concerned about one of the things that even Putin, you can be the strong. There's oligarchs over there.
Yeah.
And if those people start to get pinched.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I mean,
they might say, wait a minute.
There could be some tumult over
Vladimir.
there. Watch out is all I'm saying.
Okay. You heard it here first.
Yeah, exactly.
Good for you.
All right. I wanted to this week, another news story. You mentioned Biden. The Biden accuser story is actually gained some traction.
Absolutely, you're right. It is, and after I did have that, and I skipped over it. You're right, because apparently the actual audio popped up,
her
real live audio.
Right. And
now, what's interesting is she didn't identify herself.
No.
But somebody else said, no, that was Mom.
Right. Well, look, the audio, you can hear her voice clearly.
Yeah.
And so you'll be able to match that voice with other phone calls from her. So we'll know in short order whether that was her mom.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. I can tell you, rape victims do not go and tell somebody unless it's real. I mean, that's a big, strong indication that something actually happened, because you never go tell somebody that who's not the authorities. Your buddy,
your mom,
exactly. Like, how embarrassing is that?
Right.
You're not going to do that unless something happened. Now, that's just one indicator. Okay, she could have been crafty enough to think, you know what, I'll tell Mom. Mom will get people involved, or whoever. Who knows? They have a relationship where Mom pried it out of her, or whatever. We don't know. But and it just lends credibility to the story. Now, I did hear the woman's account in one place that was reported, and it was lacking in the details that you would normally expect.
In 20 years.
Yeah.
Twice almost. It's been 20.
But even so, that's one of those things.
Well, that's
that would,
trauma.
Exactly.
You would
it
remember
sticks
everything.
with you. Exactly. You
Right.
remember very specific details. He took his left hand and put it here and did that, and his right hand was doing. I mean, there's certain things. Now, some things you block out. You're like,
Well, not only that, some things you exaggerate. I mean, over the years, it melds into something else
it's
entirely.
true.
That's
It's true. So I'm still skeptical of the account, but it is certainly much more credible. You got to imagine if a recording had come up of Christine Ford's mom calling in and saying something about Judge Kavanaugh or whatever.
He wouldn't be on the court.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
Well, what's interesting, I'm glad you mentioned that because this apparently, there's a lot of people that says it's a lot more credible. One of the people that has called for Biden to withdraw was Clinton's advisor during the Clinton administration. He said, this is beyond the pale. This guy's, Democrat or whatever. He says, "See, Biden can't. This is going to kill him. You can't do it." So you have got one leak. Where's the little Dutch boy when you need him?
Well, it's kind of a big dam there.
Yeah.
And if that thing bursts, he could.
I would imagine that the people like Nancy and some other people are wandering around saying, "What do I do now?"
Well, they've all jumped on board. They've all said, "We believe Joe. We love Joe, and we believe Joe, and he's a good man and would never do anything like that." And they may be all right.
You can't believe those women anyway. What do they say? Women?
That's the thing.
You can't believe.
Some people like Susan Sarandon came out and said, "Look, I said I would believe women, and I'm believing the woman."
Okay.
And so there's going to be some of that, but I don't think that story is going away anytime soon. I think it's going to.
I think you might be. Well, now one of the things you do have, which does make sense, you said not going away anytime soon. One of the reasons is it's a big story.
Right.
I mean, it's in the 24-hour news cycle. This is something you can pound.
Yeah.
And
there's still months to the election, so
yeah,
there's a lot of time for that. I wanted to. Oh, I had this graphic here. This shows you where the money went. Oops, not that one. Where is it? No, not that one. There we go. And you have to blow this up, or you can Google it, and it shows you where the $2 trillion went. And it's very telling. It's where you would think the money goes if you were really skeptical.
Yeah.
It's big businesses, big corporations, even the small businesses. Do you know what qualifies as a small business under this tree?
Under 500?
Under 500 employees per location.
Per location.
Which means like every chain restaurant in town is a small business according to this.
Right.
Every business in town, except for the universities, is a small.
They save money anyway.
Yeah, and they've got their own bailout. If you look down here, there's a school bailout. There's state and local governments, and of course, a lot of that money goes to the university. So, what a situation! Now, I know everybody hasn't gotten their bailout money yet. Their first.
I haven't gotten mine.
Yeah, exactly. They're $1,200, but and they've already passed the next one, the 500.
Yeah, well, they're working on the one. They're saying, well, we're going to work on the next one now.
Sure. Well, why not?
Now we're going to finally work on the infrastructure. And I'm sitting there thinking, they should have been.
We'll get to the important stuff now.
Yeah, that's right. Now, we've paid off everybody.
That's right.
That matters. Now,
no, I mean this is like it's the biggest robbery in history, and
it is.
It's
Yeah, it is.
Going on with no check. I mean, nothing.
No, it's amazing. I mean, it is the great train robbery.
Man, nothing. Nothing compares to this. And you want to talk about, you were saying, when you said kids were starving earlier, what we've seen this week is finally people starting to report on the ripple effect in the third world. And when you talk about starvation, there's real people who are going to be starving. And now, granted,
over there.
Well, and it is, and they're out in the bush or whatever, and super poor, and they might have been eaten by a tiger in a week anyway. But if you're counting humans, you got to count the humans that were getting money and aren't anymore, and it's bad in the third world. So
well, not only that, when you think about it, you look at those a lot of those flight. The airplanes that have the flights with the rice and the grain or whatever the hell it is, they carry in, I don't know, a ton, 2 tons of stuff into an outlying village. And of course, might as well carry the coronavirus with you too. Here's your food, and by the way, here's your smallpox.
Right. Well, and I've seen videos of aid workers being overrun by the people they're trying to give stuff out to, and those effects are just going to get worse in dramatic fashion in the next.
Well,
few
you
weeks.
can imagine that if your aid worker comes back all bloodied, that the next one's not going to get on the plane.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, man, big to-dos there. So, all right. Well, I think that's all I've got. Let's see if TJ's got anything. Got anything, TJ? Says he's consumed worse. I bet you have. Yep. Me too, probably.
Let me just see here if there was anything else that I had on here that.
Oh, one more thing. I
Okay.
thought this was hilarious. The simulation has winked at us.
Simulation.
You know.
Okay, tell me about it.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys know, but every year the United States Mint, I guess, releases a new commemorative quarter. They've stopped with the eagle on the back. That's not good enough anymore now.
Now, explain what the simulation is.
Well, okay, the simulation is the concept that we're all really in the Matrix, and that this is all just a simulation, and every once in a while it gives you a little hint that that's where you are. It shows you the deja vu. The cat walks by twice. Or
Exactly right. Exactly.
And so this is one of those moments.
Now, of course, the cat walking by. You've got to watch the Matrix, obviously,
Yes.
in order to know that particular reference.
That's
and
right.
Who has?
If you haven't watched The Matrix, hang up now. Go watch The Matrix.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because Mrs. Jimmy hasn't watched it.
Well,
And we explained that, and she goes, "What?" I mean,
unbelievable. But so here's what the simulation did. This year's quarter is going to honor the national parks.
now this year's quarter obviously was designed a year ago.
Last year, exactly.
Yeah.
In 2019, and on the back of the quarter is a bat.
Not a
And-
baseball bat.
No.
I mean,
Yeah, exactly. One of those kind of bats, and it's just amazing. It's. I mean, the only thing it could have been more on point was if it had a coronavirus on there.
I suppose.
You know?
I suppose it is interesting because you do, when you think about the winking, you only have to go back through the half dozen or dozen Simpsons episodes.
Oh yeah. Well, that's Spook City there.
Spook City. I mean, what?
Yeah, and the Simpsons, can't remember the episode, but they have one. If you Google Simpsons house cat flu, it'll pull up their coronavirus episode.
Oh my God.
So, but that's going on. So, all right, where's Waldo? TJ says. Who knows? Guess you can find him now. All right, I guess that's all we got
Don't forget to share.
today.
Tell your friends about this because we need a couple more viewers.
Yeah. So.
This is good stuff.
These tracks brought to you by Kevin McLeod. Thanks, Kevin. We appreciate you sharing your talents. We'll be back
Wednesday,
29th of June. Or,
No.
excuse me, April. I knew that. So, join us if you can. You can send us questions. We'll be happy to take suggestions on stories, comments, that kind of stuff. I'm Counselor Curtis. This is the Jimmy Doane Show. And we'll see you soon.